Hello boys and girls, it's Grandpa Chris here. Something very, very different for you today. In addition to my passion for fishing, I have quite an interesting, or to me, quite an interesting hobby. It is restoring old, cherished books. Books like this Sunday Missal here, book prep. Okay, so as you can see, it's sort of falling apart. Now, it's been in the hands of a very dear friend of mine for many, many years. She's had it for maybe 15 to 20 years. And over time, the hinges have basically dilapidated and broken away. The spine is broken, there are pages loose, there are pages completely detached. And what I'm going to do today is show you how I restore these books. As I said, it's very, very different to that which you normally see. And in the absence of little Marissa Ray, who's now in full-time school, and I'm missing her dreadfully, and we don't get to do our baking sessions and have our cuddle tickle sessions and all of that sort of thing, it's giving me a little bit more time to get back to some of my old hobbies. I mean, I used to love restoring sacred artifacts, like statues and paintings and everything like that. And I'm up in my spare room at the moment, which is where I've got my fly tying gear and all of my Airfix model making gear. This is one I did a few years ago. Okay, it's a German battleship, part of the Bismarck fleet. Okay, and this is something I put together probably 10 years ago, and I keep it every once in a while. I'll get something else out like that and I'll do another one. So over the next few hours, well, next hour or so, we'll be sort of jumping in and out and showing you the different stages of restoring these lovely books. I hope you like it. It's not the sort of subject that everybody loves to watch, but there's quite a lot on YouTube on book restoration and the likes of that, and it's a hobby that I've had for about 15 years now. So we'll jump into it and we'll see what we can do, see if we can make it interesting for you. Okay? Okay, so boys and girls, as with many different types of restoration processes, you start off with something that just looks awful, it's broken down, and before we can make it look any better, we've got to make it look worse. So what we got here is a Sunday Missal, which is something which is used for prayer within the Catholic faith. And what I've got to do is stabilize the text block. Okay, the text block is the actual contents of the book. Okay, as you can see, there's pages coming loose front and back, which have been stuck on with sellotape. We've got basically the contents or the index of the book here. You can see what's called the spine. This is the spine of the book which holds it all together, and that's just flaking away. Okay, so it's doing absolutely nothing for the book whatsoever. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to reattach the loose pages. Then I'm going to create an entirely new spine. I'm going to put in new ribbons. I'm going to put in new headbands. This is the bit that makes it look all nice and pretty, and these go top and bottom of the text block. Okay, and it just gives it that little bit of a sort of touch of authenticity. Okay, now we have a blue basic cover, and I'm going to use the original book boards. I'm just going to completely recover them in a product called Buckram, okay, which is almost the same color. And then a little bit later on I will do the gold leafing so that we know what the book is all about. Okay, so I've got basically to take this bit apart before I can then make it any better. Now, what we call end sheets, which is these bits, and you know, when you open a book, you'll often have a blank piece of paper. Okay, so all basically it's an A4 sheet of paper which you fold over, you cut to size, and then using the EVA fast drying glue, okay, which I get from Shepherd's Book Supplies in London. Using that, I'll attach that into there, and then later in the process you'll see what the purposes of these end sheets really are. Okay, so initially I've got to make this thing look a little bit worse before I can make it look any better. So that's the temporary spine that they've got in there, which, as you can see, has been covered in sort of sticky back paper, sellotaped into place. Okay, and what I need to do is, as carefully as I can, I need to peel that off to reveal the original text blocks. Okay, because once again I'm going to be using the original as much as I can. But in this case I might actually have to cut a replacement, because it's basically, I don't think it's going to work. It's folded in, it's become very soft and very malleable, but I will use this as a template for when I cut the replacement out of this little bit of very thin card. Okay, come to that step in a couple of moments. Just finish peeling off this sticky back. Okay, that's about as good as it's going to get. Once I've done, of course, I've thrown it on the floor. Bear with me. So now that I've got the worst of the damage off, we've got this piece of end sheet here, which again has been sellotaped into place. I'm going to be replacing that anyway with these end sheets. So using a very, very sharp knife, I go in and I just remove those because they are of absolutely no use whatsoever. We are going to be replacing those in a couple of minutes with some new end sheets. Now I need to tip this one back into place, and by tipping what I mean, I'll show it to you in a moment. It's just applying a little bit of glue along the seam there and tipping it back into its proper place. Okay, so I've got these. Again, there's an end sheet there which I don't need, so I can just put that in the recycling bag. This piece here, it's a name page, but as you can see, it's probably beyond salvaging. So we know it's a weekly missile. We don't really need the rest of it. Again, I'm just going to take it off, put it in the recycle bag, lose that one because that's just going to be an impediment. Swipe to unlock the screen. There we go. So now the front screen is working. Okay, so now what I've just got the naked board there, and I've got the naked board at the back as well. So I'm going to use these as opposed to cutting new ones out of the board, because these will be the correct size. Okay, so let's put these to the side, and we now focus on making the new end sheets. Okay, so it's a couple of pieces of A4 page, straightforward, simple A4 page, which I now need to cut to size. Again, very, very sharp pencil, and I just trace the end of the text block onto there. Now I have what's known as a self-healing cutting board here, which has got centimetre squares on it. So I line the edge up, and they're all marked out, and I just follow, making sure that the book is completely square. Okay, so, and then I just trace it using the very, very sharp knife straight down the side. And again, that goes into the recycling. Now I need to do the same thing for the length of the page. Okay, into there, and again into there, then back onto the self-healing cutting board, line it up along a line so that I know that I'm cutting it absolutely perfectly square. Find my mark, and cut it away. Now you cut into this board, and I don't know quite how it's made, but it will any cut marks that you put into it will just heal up. You won't be able to notice them. Okay, so now I need to repeat the process, but I can use my first one as a template. Okay, so mark there, mark there, mark there, mark there, and then onto my cutting board, find my straight line, using my precision ruler, cut down here, and again finding my marks and the line underneath, cut through into the recycle bin, and now I have my end sheets cut and ready to go. So I'm stuck. Oh, help! Where all of my precision tools and everything are. So with the EVA, you put it on raw. You can dilute it if you want to, but I find it's just best to put it on raw. And what I'm going to do, initially I'm going to tip the index page back in. So square-ended brush, go along the side there, just put a little bead in all the way along, spread it out, and lay your brush there so that it doesn't come in contact with your board, and basically lay the page in where it needs to be. And that glue will dry in about 15 minutes. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing with the end sheet, only this time I'm going to put it onto the sheet itself. Okay, because I've got a wet sheet there, and if I try to paint over the wet sheet it'll just pull the sheet away. So fine line all the way along there. Now I discovered bookbinding, restoration, conservation about 10 years ago, when a friend of mine who was a assistant parish priest in the parish that I'm the acting warden of, St Anthony's in Forest Gate, he came to me one day and he said, "One of the books is damaged. Do you know anybody who can repair it?" And I said, "Not personally, no, but let me find out if there is anybody local." And I went online, and the main one I found was Shepherd's up in Pimlico in London. But to repair a book such as the one that Stephen was asking me to do, they wouldn't even open the bag for under 240 quid. And the parish hasn't got that much money to spend on a book. So I then went online and did a little bit of research on how to. And let me concentrate. I watched a couple of YouTube videos and they were very informative. And I went to Shepherd's and bought all the equipment that they were talking about. And I had a go. I practiced on an old book and it didn't turn out too bad. So then the next day, without telling anybody, I went down and I substituted my identical book with that one in the church. And I brought it home and I sat at this table and I spent a day and a half, I suppose, rebuilding the case, rebuilding the spine, putting new ribbons in, new headbands, but using the mould to spine it up with and then wrapping it and everything, and took it back and I put it back in the sacristy. And I was paid the biggest compliment the next day when I heard two priests arguing over who had requested and bought the new book and had it delivered to the shop, to the church. So whilst they were arguing, I walked into the sacristy and heard them arguing, and I just smiled. And they looked at me, and if you've never heard a priest swear before, then go to St Anthony's when Brother Stephen is around, because he does like to use an alternative version of the English. So over the next year and a half, 2 years, I think I did maybe 60 books for the parish, hymn books and missals and lectionaries and all of that sort of thing. And it's just a hobby that's developed from there. And I've had the pleasure of working on books up to 150 years of age. I worked on a series of books for a friend of mine around the corner, who he then donated them to the British Library, and they were a one-off set. I made a book of remembrance for the parish, and when I took the bookcase to Shepherds to have them do the gold leafing, they asked me if I was a professional, and that a great compliment. So yeah, it's something that I love to do and will continue to do for many years to come. So now that I've got the end sheets in, okay, front and back, I'm going to put it into my book vise, and I'm going to start working on the spine. I'm going to remove the old ribbons. I'm going to make a new spine using the mull, and then we'll go through the process of reattaching the book cover. Now, I've mentioned mull a couple of times, and this is mull. It's a very fine mesh used in book binding. I don't know really how to describe it, but you use it for creating the hinge of the book. Okay, so it overlaps to about that, and then you glue it onto the back here, but leaving the flaps clear, leaving the flaps open, and that will then give you the chance to put in your new ribbons, and it just holds the back of the text block together, stop it from splitting. Okay, so that will be the next step. So I'm not going to need that because I'm going to be using the originals. So we'll move this out of the way, and we'll bring in my book clamp. I put it into here with the top of the book facing away from me, and I basically wind it down and clamp it in place. Okay. Again, it's a book clamp that I bought online. It's about 25 quid, and it's given me really, really good service. So that basically holds the book in place. Now, I just need to tap down and make sure I've got an arch on the book. You see how that's not quite bound over? I just need to recreate that. Okay? So I use a tamping hammer, and I just gently reshape the text. I've gone a little bit tight with the clamp, so just to ease it back a bit, and that should enable me now to tap it back into place. And then once it's in, tighten it up again. Okay, and stand it up on its end. So I'm going to be working from the top there, which is where the new ribbons are going to go in. So again, another tool that I have adapted. It's just a flat chisel which I've rounded the end of. Okay, and that will allow me just to shave off these ribbons. which I'm going to replace and dispose of. This one's being stubborn, so I'll pull it from the other end and pull it off like that. Okay, and we just discard those. Now, I only thought there was 2 in there, but there's actually 4. So I'm going to go to my drawer. I've got red and blue out already. I'm going to put gold and green. Maybe brown. Yeah, let's use brown. So we use gold and brown. The green can go back in to the drawer. And using those that I've already measured, I will just cut to the same size. Okay, scissors are here. Cut at a slight angle. And then the brown. So we cut them just to the same size with very slight angle, and they will come in very handy in a few minutes. I'll tidy all of that all up properly. So I'm finished with the tamping hammer, and I am finished with the chisel, so they can both go away. Now I need to make sure that the mull is cut to the right size. So I lay it over the book, making sure that the ears, okay, the bits that come across there, are the same length on both sides. And then I come in from the bottom of the book by about 2 mil, because we don't really need the mull to overlap. And again, we lay the mull down flat on the lines, and I get my ruler and my sharp knife, and I try to stab my finger with it, and I discard the waste into the recycle bin. So that will now get glued onto here. This is the part of the book where I need to stand up. Okay, so let me get you up in the air a bit and angle you down so that you maybe can see a little bit better. So can you see the top of the book? Yeah? So what I now need to do is apply glue to the spine of the book. Okay. I'm going to use a slightly different brush. Once you're finished with using a brush with this adhesive, you need to get it into water, otherwise it will go hard. And you will find it will make it more difficult for you. Okay, so I've put the first coat of paint on. You notice that this is curved, and you put your curve in accordingly. And these are bone folders, okay, the primary tool of bookbinding. They're used for folding pages, and in this case for spreading the glue. So you can see it's got a point at one end, okay, and a flat at the other end, and it gives you the chance of getting these all into the right place. Okay, so another coat of adhesive. Okay, you can be quite liberal with the adhesive. It doesn't matter if it goes over the edges slightly. Okay. And it's pretty much at this stage now where this is ready for the ribbons. Okay, so I've cut them so that I've got about 2.5 to 3 inches of spare at each end. So I lay that in there, and I lay it over the front there, and I gently pat it down with my finger. The flat, of course, with the straight edge of the ribbon onto the back of the book, because you need the curved edge or the angled edge to be at the front, and that will come to be understood in a few minutes time. Okay, I can finish the trim. So I've put my 4 ribbons in at the top of the book, okay, and then a little bit of paste, okay, and just touch up the paste down the rest of the book. And you can just let that sit for a couple of minutes whilst we get the headbands ready. Okay, so again, this is the headband, and this is the little decorative piece that you see at the top of each book. And now measure it up, mark it, and using a very sharp pair of scissors, cut it, and you do one for the bottom of the book as well. And measure it up and cut it, making sure that you cut it straight. Now add a little bit more glue to the end, top and bottom, and then you ease that into place with just the very fringe over the edge, over the end of the text block, okay? And just tap it in with the bone folder, and that will make the glue more active, and it'll suck into the, too much glue that time, so I'll drag some of that away. We don't want it going over the edge and getting into the text block, okay? So same again, that in place, and you put the ribbons on before the headband, so that they do not pull the headband off. Okay, so once again, just tapping it into place, making the glue penetrate into the back of the headband. Okay, how are you doing? Still with me? Put a little bit of glue on the back of the headband so that it soaks in. Same again at the top here, and again, just to refresh that. A little bit earlier on, I cut a piece of paper, another piece of A4, to the same height as the book, and that was so that I can go straight in. It's still too high, so I need to shave off that about 1/2 centimetre. So again, just using a very sharp knife, get rid of the waste, and then to create the body of the spine, lay that in there, and using the bone folder, you tap it into place. Okay. Now, in the intervening time between you putting the ribbons in and the first course of glue, it's had a chance to start going off, which now means that these spine sheets will stick a lot more effectively. And you just build up layers. Okay, you glue, you fold it over, making sure you fold it square, and using the bone folder, just lay it into place. Same process again, a layer of glue. And because this book gets quite a lot of use, It's a weekday missile after all, so it's used pretty much every day of the week. I like to put a fairly meaty spine onto these. Just makes it all stronger. So we'll go across another couple of times. And then that will pretty much be the text block finished. And we'll be able to start working on the bookcase. One last one, and then we'll be finished with this. Okay, move that across, and then using the bone folder, just round the edge over. Okay, smoothing that in. And then finger on top and just gradually peel back the waste. Into the recycle bin, and then just in a downward motion, just round the edge off. I switch hands and I round the edge off. Okay, and being OCD, I like to see my lines straight. Okay. And I just leave a little message and a prayer and a date. So basically what I put on there is, by the grace of God, recased on today's date with my initials, and then peace be with you underneath it. And it's just my way of paying tribute to the owner of the book. Okay, boys and girls, I'm back. I think now we're going to bring you in a little bit closer. And I'm going to turn that down a little bit more and twist you around. Now, I've taken the opportunity to pop down and make myself a cup of tea. You'll see the emblem on that, the man, the myth, the fishing legend. Okay, so it is true after all, someone thinks I'm a legend. Now, I've laid out my chosen cloth. This is a product called buckram. It's widely used in bookbinding, restoration, all that sort of stuff. Again, got from Shepherd's up in London. A half-metre roll is between 9 and 12 quid depending on the product, and you can get them in maybe 20 different colours, and it's the product that you see pretty much all of your books, all of the modern books, wrapped up in these days. So in order to create a new bookcase, you need to have perfectly straight, perfect corners, pure ends to your product. And I start off by measuring in from the edge 2 centimeters, and this will give me my wrap on the book, you know, where the pages overlap, or where it overlaps into the back of the book. Okay, so 2 centimeters on the side, 2 centimeters on the bottom. I'm using my very long ruler. I lay that into place and I mark where I'm going to start with my book. Okay, now we saw these earlier on, just need to do a little bit of tidying up on them before I can actually put them into the book, but it's not much of an issue. So this is the front cover, so that will come over this end. This is the back cover. Again, I just need to trim that a little bit off, and I need to trim that off before I actually start. So where's my little ruler, where's my sharp knife? And that's the old hinge, and if I leave that on, then my measurements will be out. So I just need to trim that off and get it out of the way, so I have just the book itself. Okay, that's one of the end sheets which I will keep. So where I've marked my 2 inches, okay, in here, that is where I lay my book cover, and I use that as a template to mark where the book will be. Okay, then I add 6mm, and that 6mm will form, let's see if I've got another book here which I can show you on. Yeah. Okay, so you see where the book is folding open, and you'll see that little bit down there which doesn't move, and that's the hinge. If you don't add that, then your book will not open. Okay, so that's what this 6mm addition is designed to provide. Okay, so very carefully mark that, and with this line, so that I know which part of the book case I'm making, I overlap it. I go from end to end. Okay, then what I need to do, using my spine of my book, I lay that in place and I mark it top and bottom, side to side, and then I'll go back in with this and just make that line a little bit more solid, making sure it's square to the page. I mark it in, and then I mark another 6mm for the back hinge. Marked in place. Off we go. Okay, and then I take the front element of the book, I lay that into place along my bottom line and along my middle line, and I mark it in. Okay, and I can put those all to the side, and then I mark my 2mm. And then when I glue the buckram to the book, I will have that overlap which I need, and then I go 2mm from the top of the book and then, using the longer ruler, I join those up. And there I have the outline of the wrap for my book. Okay, sharp knife, stand up so that you're working down directly on top of it. Taking my time, cutting against the edge. I trim to size. Okay, and then I can discard the rest of the roll, which will be used for the next project when I'm using that thing, using this sort of thing. And then these will get glued into place. Et comme ça. Okay, so just need to tidy this one up. And then out of that card, I'm going to cut one of the identical size, because this really isn't going to be a sturdy enough backboard for it. So I hold that back as my template and I move this out of my way. Then using the offcut of card, again, I make sure that my corners are pure, which they are. I lay that onto there using my sharpened pencil. You have to have an accountant's pencil for this, it has to be really sharp. Okay, then I will mark top and bottom, I'll mark side and side. I'm using my ruler. Mark it, and I mark it again. Then using a bigger knife, and using the raised edge of the ruler, cut through, cut through, and there I have my spine piece. That can go back in the drawer in a little while, and now I have everything that I need to do to go ahead and glue the book cover, or the buckram, to the cover of the book. Don't need those anymore, so they can go in there. And there's a product that I use a lot of in bookbinding, and it's basically wax paper, like kitchen paper, only for books. And you'll see why I'm getting that out in a moment. Now I need to dry my paintbrush. Again, I use a lot of kitchen roll when I'm doing this sort of thing. Squeeze the water out and just dry the end of the paintbrush. Okay, save that for later. I'm going to have a slurp of tea. Oh, that's nice. I bring my buckram back on to my wax paper, and I get my book pieces into the right order. Do I need to do any more with this? Yeah, I just peel that off. And I just need to shave that hinge piece off. Otherwise the book will be too big. Okay, so that's now back to its pure size. Make sure there's no loose pieces which are going to look like lumps. Same again with this. Okay, and then using my EVA adhesive, what I'll do, okay, can you see? You getting bored? No? That's very good. I just, inside the lines, paint in the adhesive, staying within inside the lines. Okay, that'll keep things nice and neat and tidy. And then dragging the paint brush into the direction that you're going, and then I go down, making sure there's plenty on the corners, and then I lay the book cover along the lines, and then using the bone folder, press it into place. And at this stage I turn it over and I press it into place like this, emphasizing the edges, and they'll become more important in a couple of minutes when you do the final press. Okay, and then I can turn it round so that I'm always working on the same edge. I turn my book cover the same way around, and then I repeat the process. These pots of EVA, again, I get them from Shepherd's in London. They're about £16 a pot, but depending, if the books are all of this size, I could probably do 25 to 30 books from one pot. And it's a glue that you can use any sort of paperwork or craft work, really. Even if your wallpaper comes away from the wall, you can just use it to re-secure your wallpaper. Making sure that it sits perfectly on the line. Push down from above, turn it over, flatten your bone folder out, squeeze any air out, emphasize your edges. Okay, turn it back over, and now we're putting the spine in. One last check to make sure the spine was cut to the right size, which it was. And then you paste in along here. Okay, plenty in the corners. And then put that in on your lines. And then put the bone folding in, turn it over, compress it all in nicely, making sure you go right into the corners, again emphasizing your edges, and you go all the way around. This is quite important, because when you come to fold in, you want to make sure that it will stick absolutely perfectly. Okay, now because the book gets an awful lot of use, where you gone? Oh, there you are. Because the book gets an awful lot of use, I'm going to reinforce these hinges using tape. Okay. So this is a special book binding tape, and I basically measure out end to end, just bring it back in a fraction, and using the very sharp scissors I'll cut across, and then I need two pieces, don't need to mark it out. Okay, that can go back up there. Now, this is the fiddly bit. This is where you don't cut your fingernails, the niche, to get the first one off. And then what I do, I start on the book edge, like that, hold it away, and then using the bone folder, press it into place, and then smooth it over the middle. Okay, and then really press it into place, and that will help to reinforce the book. So let's try that again. Okay, so I'll use the knife to lift the edge. Got it. Okay, so just peel that down, that'll go into the recycle bin. And again, working from the book side, using my bone folder, tack it into place, and along the line of the hinge, pushing that into place, and then over to the book. Make sure you bed it in properly, and that way the hinge will never come apart. Okay, so we're now at the stage where we will complete the bookcase. What I need to do, how you doing? Let me have a cup of tea, maybe I can get things going. Need to create my right angle corners. So cutting across, I'm cutting that little bit off the corner, okay? Don't cut it too close, otherwise you will end up with a horrible corner. So I've done all four. Those scraps can go into the waste bin. This is where I need my narrow brush. Okay, so we have our basic book cover made in the flattened form. And using the flat brush rather than the ball brush, come across. Don't just paint the flap, also put some onto the edge of the book board itself. And I always start at the top, making sure that I get a good cover of the adhesive. Okay, and then I fold over, slide it back with the fingers to put a little bit of tension onto it, and then I get my bone folder. I go across and I squeeze any excess glue out, concentrating on my hinges and then working from middle to out. Okay, turn it round and repeat the process for the bottom of the book. Looks like I've cut that at a slightly acute angle, but it shouldn't have any bearing on it. Oh, I can hear my lovely wife doing some frying downstairs. I wonder what she's cooking. I wonder what she's cooking. So pull them over. Slide your fingers back and use the bone folder. Once again, make sure you drive it into the hinges and you get rid of any excess glue, any air. And now we can do the edges, and it's exactly the same process, okay? Put lots and lots of glue on it, doesn't matter, because it will help it stick. So on the edge and also onto the inside of the text of the board, slide that over and pull it right in, making sure your corners match up, and drive it into the corner to make the perfect corner. Get rid of the excess glue. Okay, and then turn it round, finish your corner. There you go, and then repeat the process. It can get a bit tedious when you've got 20 or 30 bookcases to make. And you get to this stage and then you do all of the gluing all at the same time, one after the other, and after a while you really get to know that you have done something, because you leave your fingerprints all over the book, you've got nothing left of your hands. Okay, so drag it down, get rid of any excess glue that might be stuck in behind, and just rub it in with your bone folder, and there you have your 4 perfect corners. Okay, we can get rid of that now, because we're pretty much finished with that, and in all truth that's as far as we can go until the text block is dry. Okay, so if you've got any glue on the other side, wipe it off at this stage, clean it down, and that's what your book looks like from the back. Okay, so I'm going to finish one last swig of my tea. I'm going to go and get a new battery for the Osmo because I'm down to about 20%, and I will see you in a little while when it comes time to reunite the book board and the text block. So guys, whilst I'm waiting for the text block to dry, I'm going to do a little bit of gold leafing on the booklet, if I can get the bloody thing to work. Yep, okay. So it's a sheet of gold leaf paper, okay, which you attach to the book using very fine micropore tape to hold it into place. Using micropore tape because it does not leave any glue marks or anything like that on the buckram, and you need to have your gold leaf relatively tight. Okay, so can you see that? Let's bring you down a little bit and twist you back that way. Okay, now, so in order to make sure that I am absolutely square, I use a square from my daughter's old maths book or maths kit. And sort of just working out my angles, do it freehand. So it's a heated nib on the pen which transfers the gold onto the front of the buckram. Just bring that down a fraction. Okay. Now, it takes a little bit of gonads to actually do something like this, because if you get it wrong, you can't scrub it out. It's there permanently. Okay. Okay. So my weekday missile, and then I will put a little crucifix at the bottom. Again, done quite a few of these, so I've got a good idea of where the middles of the books are and all that sort of thing. Then you allow a bit for the thickness of the nib of the pen, and that's pretty much it. And then just peel it off there, and there we go. Okay, keep the sheet just in case I need to do any little emblems. And then the trick is to make sure which is the front of the book and which is the back of the book, because if you write it on the back of the book, you don't half look like a pillock. And you know what? I put the wrong battery back in the camera. But never mind. Right, just going to get the text block out. Because I need to make sure that I made the bookcase the right size. Oh, aren't you a lucky boy, Chris? See that? Okay, now I'm going to get rid of these ribbons so that they don't get in the way when it comes to the gluing. And I will cut them to the right size in a moment. Now, I am very happy with that. That's a lovely fit. Now I'm going to show you how they are reattached. And again, out comes the wax paper, which I've used before. Okay, all you need is one straight edge. And that straight edge, you open the two end sheets that you put in place. Okay, and you put your straight edge in there. Okay, where have you gone? You keep disappearing. Oh, I need to swipe you up. There we go. Stop disappearing like that. It's not nice. It's rude. So we need some more tissue. I'm going to have to go down and get a new roll of that in a minute because we're running out. Just for this one, I'm going to need the large brush. Okay, I'm going the large brush out. I can turn my leafing pen off. I don't need that anymore. And I can open my glue up because I do need that. Okay, now with the grease paper in place, basically what that does, it prevents the glue from going beyond this one page and sticking into the actual text block itself. So you pull your mull leaf back and you paste in some glue into that area, and then you fold your mull over and you dab it down into the glue, and then you glue over the top of the mull. Okay, pulling away from the spine into the page, and you cover the whole page. Okay, making sure there's enough on the mull for it to stick. And then two ways you can do it. You can either leave the wax page in, or you can take the wax page out. This is where you need to be absolutely precise when centering your text block into your book. Okay, because once it's in place you can't take it off. And then you lift it over the top and you trust yourself. Okay, turn the book over, open it right out, go all the way back to that back page. Okay, and then using your bone folder with the curved end, I'm rubbing with the curved end, okay, and make sure that that's in place without pressing too hard. Okay, because if you press too hard with the paper being wet, you can cut through the paper. Okay, and then you repeat process from here with a new piece of wax paper. If you use the same piece as you did with the first one, all you're going to be doing is sticking the pages together underneath. So lift your mull out of the way. And you put glue underneath your mull, and then you tap your mull into place. Okay. Paste over your mull, pulling it away from the edge, and cover the remainder of the sheet. You can put enough on, you don't have to skimp with it, making sure it goes to the edges and to the corners. Okay, and making sure there's enough on the mull. And then once again, I have a tendency to take the wax paper out, pull it up and over the top, press down, turn it over, ease it back a bit, and as you can see, this one's got one or two little wrinkles in it, but that's fine, because using the bone scraper, the bone scraper, you can gently tease it into place, and they'll disappear when the paper is dry. Okay, mark out your lines there because it looks neater. Okay, And that, my dear friends, boys and girls, lads and lasses, is how you rejoin a text block to the book cover. That will now go into the press overnight, certainly for 4 to 6 hours. It will allow the glue to dry and cure completely, and by morning we will be able to use that book, read it, open the pages, close the pages, do what we need to do with any of the pages. Okay, now one more step, if I've got it here. It's in the other room, bear with me. Now, with the ribbons, okay, you need to have them maybe an inch below the bottom of the book, so that if you're sliding them from the side, you've still got something to get hold of. So, to my mind, that's just about the perfect length. Okay, what I need to do to prevent the ribbons from fraying, I need to just singe the ends. Okay, and that will stop the ribbons from fraying. You literally just touch it with the flame, and job done. Okay, just hold them apart just for a second so that they don't melt into each other. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, friends, family, everybody who's listening, thank you for watching. Just a little something different for you, something to add to my little collection. I'll put the program up on YouTube over the next couple of days. It's been a pleasure doing this one for you. Really do appreciate the time that you take to watch my videos. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, it would be wonderful to see my numbers go up. I'm up at about 881 at the moment. It would be nice to get closer to the 3 figures, the 4 figures. Okay, thank you for supporting me, and I look forward to doing another one for you in the near future. It's Grandpa Chris signing off. Okay, so good morning, guys. Well, it's actually just turned afternoon. It's the next day. I've been out doing all sorts of bits and bobs this morning, doing some maintenance down at the church. Shall we take the book out of the clamp and see how she's fixed? Just unwind these little wing nuts. By the way, that used to be my nickname. Okay, so here we go. There she is. And let's have a look inside. We'll open the front page. And we just flick through the pages. Wow, look at that. Everything moving the way it should be. The end sheet's nice and loose, a little bit tucked in there. But look at the way that's all come out at the back there, and all come out at the front there. See? So that roughly at the hour that it took, because of course there's been some editing done, has produced this little beauty. And I think Caroline is going to be very, very happy with that. This is my next project. So as you can see, the face is all eaten away, stuck together with sellotape. So I've got to create a new case for this. As you can see, it's all been moused away. So, dearest Prudence, I pray that through these daily readings, God will give you peace and strength for your new day. Be blessed. Love, Millie, 2001. So, yeah, that's the next project. That's going to be fun. I'll make a new case for it, but I shall place these or stick these into the inside of one of the end sheets, so the front and back, so she has the full cover and everything like that at her disposal. Okay, So, thank you for watching, guys. Time to go and edit the film. Be blessed.